Folk there are calling it a curse. They're saying this figure appears sometimes there in the distance. Black suit and big top hat, then disappears. Shadowy, like he ain't of this mortal realm.
There are many mysteries in the Red Dead universe, but the strange man and the curse on Armadillo has to be one of the most intriguing. Is he an angel of death come to curse the town, or the Grim Reaper visiting those who are about to die? A devil to make a deal with, or a demon collecting a debt? It's been nearly a decade since we first met this peculiar being in the original Red Dead Redemption, but in the newest game we got a lot more clues about his supernatural identity. First, some background. Armadillo is one of the towns in New Austin, and although it was once a prosperous settlement, the town has recently become riddled with cholera through contaminated drinking water.
A few years ago it was the scarlet fever, then it was the desert plague, then typhus, now the cholera. Bad business.
Most of the residents have either left town or died, and those that remain are all very sick. Well, all except for one man, the local shop owner, Herbert Moon.
I don't think I've seen you before, pard.
Behind old Herbert is a picture of the strange man, easily recognisable with his distinctive top hat. But when John confronts him about the picture, Herbert simply shrugs it off.
I don't know. It's just a little portrait somebody gave me once. I always quite liked it. Why?
No reason. Just seemed familiar. Anyway.
John saying the man looked familiar appeared at first to be a nod to the previous game, where you meet the strange man directly. However, it appears there is more to this story, and more to Herbert Moon.
I should warn you, I'm sick, but so is pretty much everyone else around here. Apart from that son of a bitch who runs the general store. That might be the cruelest irony of them all.
Not far from Armadillo, there is a campsite where a man can be found who says this.
Folk there are calling it a curse. And I ain't a superstitious man, but it's hard not to see it any other way. They're saying this figure appears sometimes there in the distance. Black suit and big top hat, then disappears. Shadowy, like he ain't of this mortal realm. A reaper and his Sunday best.
The person he describes is clearly the same man from Herbert's picture, and this idea that he's out there watching people die could be why John feels he seems familiar. Perhaps John has seen him out the corner of his eye. The idea of the strange man watching John is backed up somewhat by an encounter with him in the previous game, where he claims to know John even if John doesn't know him.
Do I know you?
I hope so. I seem to know you.
There is also another location, this time in Lemoine, that gives us more details about the strange man, Armadillo, and Herbert Moon. Inside this shack are a number of paintings, but in the centre is one that's still being worked on. Each time you return to the cabin, more work has been done on the canvas, until eventually it becomes clear, and upon this visit, there is also someone watching you. The strange man can only be seen in the mirror, and as soon as you turn around, he's gone. Pretty freaky, but there are even more things to uncover in this cabin. Around the room there are various messages written on the walls. I know you is a reference to the mission from the previous game, while the moon will shine on in the darkness seems to be a reference to Herbert Moon remaining healthy while everyone around him dies. The water is black with venom also seems to be a reference to the infected water in Armadillo, and then on the table there is a map of the town itself, along with a note. I offered you happiness, or 2 generations. You made your choice. This is probably the most interesting message in the room. It implies the strange man made a deal with someone in Armadillo, and judging by the photograph, we can be pretty safe in the assumption that deal was with Herbert Moon. Now, Herbert is a horrible person, but he's also very religious in his own twisted way, so there is a real possibility that he could have thought he was asking his god for help, and that the strange man was an answer to his prayers. Herbert describes himself as the town's first citizen, and judging by his age, he could certainly have been one of the founders. Could he perhaps have made a deal with the strange man to make the town prosperous and happy, but the cost was that the second generation wouldn't survive there? That's one theory, and there are many different ideas out there about whether it's happiness or a second generation the man chose, but we have more clues to uncover. If we go back to Herbert's shop, and this time loot the man himself, we can find a note from his daughter on his body. In essence, the note says that she married a Jewish man and is now pregnant with their child. However, Herbert is, amongst many other things, an anti-Semite, and as a result, he essentially cut off contact with her. She pleads with him for forgiveness and for Herbert to come and see his grandchild. However, judging by this bit of dialogue, he never does.
Have you ever met a Jewish person?
Thankfully not.
This provides us with another possibility for what kind of deal he struck with the strange man. Perhaps Herbert wanted a grandchild, a second generation, but he had to pay for it with his own happiness. So he got the grandchild, but not in the way he expected, and this made him into an even more angry and twisted individual.
Well, I don't like Jews, or colored folk, or natives, now that you mention it.
Well, you're a nice, kind-hearted man to meet in a time of trouble.
Kind does not come into it.
Why? What are you talking about?
Why? I bet you like Catholics. I can't stand them neither, nor women. Fabians, socialists, homosexuals, Asians, or British.
Let's go back to our creepy little cabin in the swamp, as there are a few more things to go over. A number of the messages around the room indicate that the strange man has been watching over the gang. From the snow to the cave describes the part of the story that we experienced in the game. This poem about Jimmy Brooks on the table changes depending on whether Arthur killed him or not, and this all ties back to the I know you message, and if the strange man is indeed the Grim Reaper, it makes a lot of sense for him to pay close attention to a band of mass murderers like Dutch's gang. I gave everything for art, and I learned too much and nothing at all. This is one of the most confusing messages in the room. Some speculation suggests that art is short for Arthur, or perhaps it simply refers to all the art around the room. The final bit of text says his final toll will sound my greatest coming. This again is a very cryptic message, mainly because there is very little context to what the toll is. It could be referring to a price to be paid, similar to paying a toll to cross a bridge, or the ringing of a bell to signify death, as in the phrase, for whom the bell tolls. This could be a reference to John's death as his final toll, and then perhaps My Greatest Coming could be a nod to the Undead Nightmare DLC, which was released for the first game, which coincidentally also includes the death of Herbert Moon. There has been a lot of speculation about who the strange man is. We have references to him in game as being the Reaper, and this gels nicely with the idea of him knowing John very well, seeing as John has taken many lives. Other theories say that he's the devil or a demon, believing that Herbert Moon made a literal deal with the devil. Some fans even claim he's meant to be a metaphor for God, all-knowing, all-powerful, and always watching. Whatever the case, he's certainly a being of supernatural power, as even when John opens fire on him, he's completely unaffected. The curse on Armadillo also has many theories surrounding it. Was it Herbert Moon's deal that condemned the town, and if it was, did he ask for happiness or a second generation? Honestly, solid and direct answers to these questions will probably never be found, because that's just the way that Rockstar is. But there are many theories out there, so which is your favourite? Let me know in the comments below. As always, this is James for Curse, saying thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.